Are you recording? Great, thanks. All right, let's move on to the next slide. Just wanted to remind everybody of who your JIUPK team is. Shay Almonte is the foundation's program director. She is back from maternity leave. I am filling in as the UPK manager as a consultant. Heather Mayhew and Carla Rivera Ramirez are our family resource navigators. Drew Drescher is on this call and he's running the PowerPoint for us today. And he's the Universal Pre-K assistant. And Ryan Berry is the JI data specialist. He's also on this call and we're going to turn this over to him in a little while. Okay, next. So our agenda today is to go through the slides that have been sent to us from CDEC, and these are the standard updates that they would like every LCO to make sure that providers receive. Then we're going to talk about UPK by the numbers. That's Ryan. And we're going to talk about year one reminders. We're still in year one. Then we're going to do year two, and we're going to talk about what's the difference from year one. We're going to talk about year two resources, and we're going to do questions. Next. So we're going to try something here to try to make sure that everybody's questions are answered. We're going to ask you to use the chat. So as questions come up, we'd like you to type your question into the chat, starting with the subject of the question. And we will answer those as it seems appropriate in the discussions as we go through. And if we don't answer them, then we will go through them at the end of the presentation. And then if we still have time remaining, we'll encourage you to put your hand up and ask the question in real time. But please use the chat if at all possible, instead of putting your hand up in the middle of the presentation, because you may find out that we're planning to answer that. Okay, next. This is the CDEC slide, and the topics that CDEC wanted to go over was payment support, grant notifications, metrics enroll, CDEC connections, the tax credit outreach, and program setup forms. So that's what we'll start with. So CDEC wanted to remind you that any payment concern should be sent directly to Metrics IQ, and you can submit a, this is the site where you can submit your concern. You're always free to ask us first, but quite frankly, if it has anything to do with payment, Metrics IQ is going to have to resolve it. So keep this handy. Okay. They also now have a system where you can enroll to get your own account, if you will, to be able to download your own payment reports. This information is also in the provider guide that has recently been sent out. That provider guide, we're going to talk a little bit about some pieces in that today, but it's also up on the JIUPK page. And so if you did not see it in the UPK newsletter, or you didn't get a separate email with it in there, it is up on the JI page, and I would encourage you to make sure that you download that and take a look at it. There is additional details in there about how to set up your account with Metrics Enroll. Next, yep. Thank you. So many of you have applied for capacity building grants, and the state wanted you to know if you had not received notification from Metrics regarding your grant, you'll want to ensure you are frequently checking your inbox. So there should have been information that has gone out around that. And the last bullet here says that if you have not, if you have any issues with any of this, this is the link where you send a, where you open up a ticket or send a request. And again, these slides actually right now, Angela is putting them up on the UPK page. So at jointinitiatives.org. So you will be able to reference these slides at any point. Okay. So CDEC wants you to stay connected with them. So please make sure that you have signed up for the Colorado Department of Early Childhood newsletter. And they want your feedback. So this is where you can send it. Next. Also concerned about outreach for tax credits and tax rebates for families that are eligible for these. Toward a little bit later in the slide, there is, or in the presentation, there is a link to where you can basically download a toolkit to be able to get information out to parents about tax credits and tax rebates. Go ahead. It does talk about what's new for this tax season. And so all of these things are important, particularly for lower income families to know about and want to make sure that they are aware of these. There's a certain part of the population that typically does not take advantage of these when they can. So if you can provide any kind of assistance in getting the word out, that would be great. Next. There's also an early childhood educator credit, and you must hold an early childhood credential from CDEC in order to be eligible for this. And you also have to file a state return plus a tax form. And so there is a link for more information on that. And so would want to make sure that you and your staff are aware of the fact that this credit is available. And again, these slides are up on the UPK page right now. Next. And Get Ahead Colorado is where you can download any of the marketing information or the materials that are needed. And it's also a place to for families to be able to go and sign up for volunteer tax preparation assistance. Yeah. So, okay, provider setup form. So if you have any questions regarding your setup form or any changes that need to be made to it, you need to contact us to do that. And you know that your initial deadline was February 16th. For those who did not sign up by that time, you can still sign up for UPK. You just will not be published in time to take advantage of priority enrollment, which we're going to talk about in a minute. But it does not stop you from becoming a UPK provider. Next. And then the current year portal troubleshooting, it's some information here about, how you usually, when you're having problems with your computer, you usually reboot the whole thing and see if that fixes the problem. Well, this is the same thing. Get out of the portal and get back in and see if it's fixed. And if not, as it says, take a screenshot and send it to us and we'll see if we can troubleshoot it. Next. Okay, so we're going to move into our part of the presentation and we're going to start with Ryan, UPK by the numbers. Ryan?
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Again, my name is Ryan. I am the data specialist here on the UPK team. And I'm just going to be sharing with you all a brief summary of our year 2 provider setup. So we are very excited to announce that we have 201 providers who have registered for year 2 here in El Paso County. We are also very excited to announce that we are at 96% retention for providers from year 1 to year 2. That does put El Paso County above the state target for provider retention. So like I said, we're really excited about that. We have 28 new providers that have come on in El Paso County for year 2. 15 of these providers are in extremely high need areas. Those are areas with less than 70% access to UPK seats and providers. So we are also very, very excited about that. We are just shy of 6,200 registered UPK seats in El Paso County for year 2. This has increased access in El Paso County to 66%. That gets us 4% away from the benchmark of 70% for universal access. That benchmark is something that we've been using that's been set by the National Institute for Early Education Research. So we are very, very, very close to getting to that 70%. This is an increase of 11% access over year one, so that gets us in a much better place for year two than for year one. Something that's kind of preventing us to get to that 70% is we could really still use some providers at seats down in zip codes 80916 and 80910 in particular. These zip codes have the highest concentrations of 4-year-olds in El Paso County, very large military populations, and have among the highest youth poverty in the county. So 80916 and 80910, for those of you who don't know, that's primarily District 2 and also the southern part of District 11 as well. So we can go to the next slide. So I think, as you all remember, when you were setting up your programs for year two, you were asked to specify what types of seats you had in your programs. And this enabled us to get some really interesting data early on as to how seats are distributed in El Paso County. So from that, we've been able to determine that 24% of the UPK seats in El Paso County are IEP seats, 20% are full day seats, 16% of UPK seats are other hour type seats. Some of you did use this option. We know that D49, for example, all are offering 12 hours. Around 24 private providers also have hours that are different from 10, 15, or 30 hours. We've also got 13% of UPK seats are half-day PM seats, 10% are extended day seats, 9% are half-day AM seats, 7% are part-time AM seats, and a tiny chunk, 1%, are those part-time PM seats. So as you probably all know, the part-time AM and part-time PM is a new thing for this year. And so we were very interested to see which provider was going to choose those programs. So that's how those are distributed right now. And then the next slide, I'm just a very visual person, so this is just a kind of a visual for this. For any of you who are also visual like me, this is just a pie chart of our distribution here in El Paso County. So that ends this part of the presentation.
Thanks, Ryan. So again, if you have any questions about the data, please feel free to put it in the chat and we will address it later. So we're going to go on to year one reminders. And so first of all, we wanted to remind you that for the remainder of year one, only children who are 4 years old prior to October 1 of 2023, so last October, who are in right now in their year before kindergarten, excuse me, are eligible for UPK during the current year, regardless of when or whether they turn 4 after October 1. They may be 4 years old now, but it doesn't matter. They weren't 4 by October 1 of 2023. And children who are in their 2 years before kindergarten, which we lovingly refer to as 3-year-olds, during the current school year can only receive UPK support from their home school district. Non-school district providers can still serve these children, but it is without UPK support. And then new applications are still coming in. Families are still applying for the last 2 months of the year. And JI is reviewing those applications weekly and sending them to the top 2 providers that the family chooses. And if they have a whole list of providers, we are typically sending them to one of our family resource navigators to reach out to the family and see if we can cut down the time that is needed to get them into a UPK seat for the remaining part of the year. Next. So this is a reminder, we talked about this last month too, that providers must unenroll a child within 1 week if the child withdraws or stops attending. Please notify us by email of the reason for the unenrollment so we can make a note in the child's application. That does impact what we do in terms of follow up with that family. If the family stops communicating with the provider, please make sure that you document your attempts to contact the family. And then when you are sure that there's not going to be any communication, then you must unenroll within 1 week. And you may continue to enrollment for a child as long as they attend sometime during the payment month. If the family leaves for a month, the child must be unenrolled, and the provider can save the seat for the child by reducing their UPK number by 1 and then increasing again when the child returns. To reduce or increase seats, you need to contact us. Next. Okay, payment schedule and issues. We've already talked about this once. Any payment issues must go to Metrics IQ. And again, the payment report is being pulled at the end of the day on the 15th of each month. And then you're eligible for payment the following month. And you must have completed an enrollment form with a start date is by the 15th of the payment month. Last payment for year one will be on May 9th for children enrolled as of April 15th and starting by May 14th. And we're told that there will be a true up in June for any providers who were not paid correctly, and any concerns or issues should be submitted to Metrics IQ. So please make sure that you're paying attention to what you've been paid for a child based on the number of months that they've been attending. And if you think you have not been paid properly, then you need to make sure that you submit a ticket to Metrics IQ. Once a provider's UPK calendar is ended, enrollment over the summer months is at the complete discretion of the provider in accordance with their published rate schedule. There is no UPK support over the summer months. This is a 10-month program. All right, so we're going to move on to year two. So as we talked about a little bit earlier, the UPK provider guide has been published. We are told it is version 1 and that they will do updates as needed. And it is on our UPK page. And you can also sign up on that page for our UPK newsletter. The topics included in the guide are a program overview, some key terms, key partners, the enrollment process, funding and financing, and marketing resources. Next. So here are the major differences between year one and year two. So if you're a new provider to UPK, some of this is not going to make sense to you because you only know what's happening for year two. But for those of you who are a UPK provider in year one and moving into year two, here's the differences. First of all, we're going to talk more about each one of these. Priority enrollment or pre-registration or continuity of care enrollment is being done differently. The matching algorithm will run only twice, and that's expected to be April and July, followed by a return to walk-in status in August. And for those of you who are a UPK provider now, what we're doing now is considered to be walk-in status. Children in their 2 years before kindergarten, so 3-year-olds, without an IEP, will be sent directly to the school district for placement and will not go through the UPK system. Children in their year before kindergarten with an IEP will be managed directly with the AU or school district for placement. And children in their 2 years before kindergarten with an IEP will submit an application through the UPK system, noting that they have an IEP, and these apps will be sent to the AU or school district for placement. So mostly what is happening through the UPK system is enrollment of Gen Ed 4-year-olds. As far as you're concerned anyway, the school districts have to deal with the IEP folks. Okay, so this is what this looks like, and this came directly out of the provider handbook. So you can see this in the provider handbook on page 8. So if you look at the timeline, in February, you did your provider program setup, and that does continue throughout the year. It's just that in order for the rest of this to be applicable to you, you had to have signed up by the 16th in order to be able to take part in pre-registration. So pre-registration is that period is meant to be from February 29th through March 28th. And these are families that are known to you as a provider because you currently have a child, the child is currently enrolled with you, a sibling is currently enrolled with you, or the child is a family member of an employer with you, okay? And during that time period, they can sign up in a way that allows them to be hard placed in a seat where you have a seat for them, a priority seat for them. Okay, we'll talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. No, thank you. At the same time, on February 29th, applications will be open to any family that does not have priority status. And excuse me, but those applications will sit in the system until the first matching algorithm happens in April. So they're just going to sit there and wait until the algorithm happens. And the reason for that is because priority enrollment is going on through March 28th. And we want to give families who have priority the opportunity to get into a seat before anybody who doesn't have priority is matched. Okay, so they can sign up at any point, but nothing will happen to those applications until after pre-registration is open. All right. And then IEP kiddos can start at any time. And we're gonna look at a kind of a visual of the buckets of how all this works. So, all right, next. So, as I said, there are 3 buckets. So if you can picture this, you've got the priority apps bucket, and that happens from February 29th to March 28th. And this is not first come, first serve. This is the people that you have said that have priority status with you. So quite frankly, they can sign up on March 28th and still get a priority seat as long as you will confirm that they have priority with you. All right. So what's going to happen during this time is that folks who have signed up for priority with you will go in and do that. And then once a week, you will get you will be told that the kids that have signed up and say they have priority with you, that you can go in and see them. Okay, go into the system and see them in your account. And then at that point, you say, yes, this child has priority with me, or no, this child does not. Because it is possible for a family to sign up and say they have priority with you when in fact they do not. Okay, so you're going to go check and you're going to make sure that the ones that have signed up with you actually have priority with you. Okay, and as long as you have put in more seats than you have priority kiddos, they're going to be directly placed in a seat after March 28th. Okay, and then any seats that you have left after March 28th will be run through the algorithm. And you will have the opportunity after you figure out how many how many priority kiddos have signed up with you, you'll have the opportunity to increase your seats before the algorithm runs. And you're going to do that by calling us or sending an email. Okay. So the second bucket is children with IEPs. So anybody who goes into the system and signs up and says that they have an IEP is going into a state bucket that is going up to the state, and they are working then with the child's home school district to find a placement for the child. If for whatever reason the family says that they have an IEP, it goes up to the state and the family comes back and says, no, I can't work with a placement at the school district because their hours aren't long enough or whatever, then I believe at that point they will be asked to decline services with the school district. The IEP will actually be taken out of their application, and at that point they will go through the algorithm for placement. Okay. And then the third bucket is the general education no priority bucket. So these are the kiddos that I said that they can start signing up on the 29th, but nothing will happen with their applications until after the priority process has been walked through. And the algorithm will run in April and July or somewhere within that time frame. And then after that, all applications will go to walk-in status. I also believe, but this has not been completely confirmed, that if a family misses the priority timeframe, that they are now, they've lost their priority and they're now in the algorithm. So make absolutely sure that any families that have priority with you are signed up during that time, or they are not guaranteed a seat. Hang on a minute. Will the site be notified that the child did have an IEP but wasn't served by the school district? No. But likely we will put an application, we will put a note in the application that says that the child declined services. And any of you who are matched with the child, make sure as you're doing an interview with the family that you're asking them questions to determine whether or not the child has special needs. And then determine whether or not you can work with that child, that you can offer them the level of services that they need. They may have, excuse me, that's completely up to you. You do not have to serve a child whose needs you cannot meet. Excuse me, but we'll want to try and get in the middle of that so that you don't end up the bad guy with the family, that instead we do some sort of a conversation with the family to help find something that will best meet their needs. Okay, next. Okay, there's some funding and financing information here. I want you to pull up, when you have time, I want you to pull up that provider handbook and click on some of these links to make sure that you know exactly what you're doing here, how to sign up for that payment account at Metrics IQ. The step-by-step instructions, it says here, you can review your monthly payment reports to activate your account, and for instructions on logging in, click here. It is very, it goes step-by-step, and it tells you what to do if you have a problem. So for those of you who need to calculate your private pay tuition, there are some resources in this to help you determine how much you should be charging. And then it needs to be clear to a 4-year-old family that they are getting a certain number of hours free. Okay, so whether it's 10 or whether it's 15 or whether it's 30, depending upon what they're eligible for and what you're offering for them. Okay, so, but you've got to start with what your tuition would be without UPK, and then UPK gets factored in there for what the family is actually charged. All right, next. So the programs and rates for 24-25, this is pending approval by the Joint Budget Committee. It's a 2% increase over this year. We do not expect that there will be any issue with this from the Joint Budget Committee. So I've just gone ahead and put in the 2% increase rates in here. So if you are offering a family between 10 and 14 hours per week, and you have to provide them a minimum of 360 hours a year. So it's easier over 10 months. So it's just easier. I think it's easier to say, okay, I have to provide a minimum of 10 hours over 36 weeks. It's you will be paid $483.01 per month times 10 months, and you may not charge the family at all for that model. Half day is between 15 and 29 hours per week. And so this is 36 weeks or a total of 540 hours. You will be paid $603.57 per month times 10 months. The 15 hours are free, but families may be charged for the hours between 16 and 29 per week based on your published tuition rates. For full day, it's 30 plus hours per week. And for 36 weeks, if you have a family who is eligible for 30 hours, you would be charged at, or you would be paid at $1,067.92 per month over 10 months. And for if a family is eligible for those 30 hours, those 30 hours must be free, but you can charge the family for hours for any of the hours above 30 hours. And as I just said, this rate is only for those children who qualify for 30 hours per week of UPK. There is more information about what qualifies a family for UPK in the provider guide for 30 hours for the extra hours. Okay, so read that. And once again, if you have any questions, please make sure that you reach out. This year, the state is expecting and will be holding providers accountable for publishing their rates in their profile so that families have that information before choosing a potential UPK provider. So you are going to need to say, for this particular program, if you are only eligible for 15 hours, we will be charging you X. If you are eligible for 30 hours, we will be charging you Y. And you need to put that in your profile. And for many of you right now, your profile is not open to be able to do that, but it will be after your programs are published, which will be before February 29th. Okay, so figure that out, please. And if you need help, make sure you reach out. All right, let me go back to a couple of these questions and make sure that they're funding or something related. If a family enrolls after the algorithm process, but should be priority, will they have an opportunity No. We believe that if they enroll outside of March 28th, they are a non-priority family. So they'll go through the algorithm. If that changes, we will let you know. Is it okay to charge all families registering for the new school year with a one-time registration fee? Yes, but that has to be in your provider handbook and it needs to be published to families. So if I were you, I would put it on your page so that families are aware that that will be an obligation to enroll with you. Staff kids can qualify for 30 plus hours per week. Only if they meet the qualifications that are in the handbook, in the provider guide. They have to be living in poverty, which I hope if they're working for you, they're not. But if they have to be living in poverty, or they have to be low income plus have another eligibility factor. And all of that is in that provider handbook. So please look at that. Can child care aware Army, Navy, and Air Force subsidy families also receive UPK? So we're going back and forth with child care aware right now on this. And so I do not have a definitive answer for you with that. We got a yes, then we got a no, and then we have to check. So I wouldn't tell them that that they can stack with UPK. I would say that they should reach out themselves to Child Care Aware and ask them if they can stack with it. You can also do that if you would like, but we've gotten, as I said, three different answers from Child Care Aware so far. Okay, let's move on to the next section. So the handbook, the guidebook, has lots and lots and lots of links to marketing tools that you can use to market to the community that you are a UPK provider, should you choose to do that. And this was just one page that I pulled out of there, but there's at least 3 in there with links to marketing toolkits, etc., that you should take a look at. Really encourage you to use this in your marketing. I would invite somebody from Little Sprouts to unmute and talk for a minute about how not being a UPK provider had an impact on your business last year and why you're coming into UPK this year.
Okay, sorry, Sarah just unmuted us. Yeah, so we chose not to participate the first year because we thought there would be some kinks to work out. Normally when kids go into kindergarten, we lose between 10 and 15 students this year we lost an additional 10 children. So it's been a very challenging year this year. So we're definitely getting on board for this next school year.
Thank you, ladies. I appreciate your openness about that. So it does matter to families that they know that you are a UPK provider. So I would strongly suggest that you take advantage of the toolkit. Okay, next. So as you know, we have a page that I keep hammering on our Joint Initiatives website. It is a page that is specifically for UPK. It has information for school districts, private providers, and families up there. We also do send out a UPK newsletter. If you have not signed up yet, I would strongly encourage you to do that. We're averaging about one every 10 days, I would imagine, but there could be 2 in a week if we have time-sensitive information that CDEC needs us to get out. Please make absolutely sure that you are checking your email and that you are reading that newsletter. We try not to make it too long, but we send links to more information on the Joint Initiatives page. Continue to attend our monthly roundtables. We really appreciate that. That cuts down on miscommunication. And you can always email us or call us for any help. And you can certainly set up a consultation appointment with me at any point that you would like to do that. And then please make sure you're keeping your contact information up to date with the state so that you are getting the right information to the people that you want to receive it. So now I'm going to stop. And so let's see, when can we expect the links to share with our existing families? Yes. So stop sharing, please, Drew. And let's just answer whatever questions you have. Okay, so here's what we have been told what is going to happen with regard to priority registration. So sometime between now and the 29th of February, the state is setting up all of the programs that you have submitted in your setup form. We are told that they are then going to send they're going to send something out to you to say, please confirm that what we have set up for you is what you really want. And I want you to make sure that you look at that and that you follow whatever they've asked you to do in terms of confirming. There have been times over the last, couple of weeks that I found that when we went in after a discussion with you and we made some changes, that those changes did not save correctly. So without going through every single program that Ryan told you has signed up to check to make sure that things have saved correctly, we cannot, I won't guarantee 100% perfection. And so I want you to look at the stuff that was sent out to you and make sure that it is what you want and confirm to the state. If it is not, and you need a change made, then follow whatever instructions they give you, which will probably be go back to your LCO and they'll make the change. Okay, but that may not be what they say, but I'm pretty sure that's what they'll say. And then once those have been approved, then they are going to publish your programs. Okay, and at that point, your links will be available. They will not be available before then because they want to make sure they've got the right programs in there to begin with. Okay. So what does that mean? It means that you may not have that link until February 28th. Don't worry about it because there is a whole month in there that families have to sign up. And as long as you have enough priority seats in there for the families that you said you have priority, you're not going to run out of seats, and it's not first come, first serve. Okay. So you could wait until March 16th if you wanted to send out a link. What will happen with the link is that, the program that you send the link to them for will be will pre-populate. If they use that link, it will pre-populate that particular program as their first choice. Okay, they can still add in other choices, but just in case something happens to the priority situation or whatever. But if they move that priority link out of first to some other ranking, they've lost their priority status and they're going through the algorithm. Okay, so you have to send a link to them for where you have a priority seat. Now, the other option is you don't have to use that link at all. Instead, you can say to your priority families, somewhere between February 29th and March 28th, go into the upk.provider.colorado CO system, okay, which is Bridge Care. And I want you to put in there, this is where we have a priority seat for you. And I want you to put in there that as your one and only choice, or at least your first choice, and state that you have priority. Okay. And so they can go in and do it that way too. They don't have to have the link in any way, shape, or form. You can just tell them where you have a priority seat for them. Okay. If they want something different than that, that is perfectly okay. But unless you go back and say, okay, we do have a priority seat for you there, put that in there, and you do it within that time frame, if you, all right, let me back up. So once a week during that time period, we're told once a week during that time period, you're going to be encouraged to go into your profile and check on the kids that are there that have come through as priority. And you're either going to accept them and say, yes, they have priority and this particular seat is where I have priority for them, or you're going to decline them. If you decline them and nothing else happens during that time frame, then they are going into the algorithm for a match. Okay. And they're in the same, with the same priority or lack of priority status as everybody else who had no priority. Okay. So if you're nervous about waiting until you have the opportunity to get a link and send it to them, you can go ahead and communicate with all of your families, and you can just say, you have priority status in this particular program, in this particular location. And so go in and sign up. Here's how you do it. Go in and sign up. And then this is what you choose. And you say that you have priority status there. You can choose others if you want to, but where you say you have priority status, in other words, your first choice, is what's going to come through to us, and we'll approve it. And excuse me, at that point, after March 28th, the families will get an official notification that they have been placed at your place, okay, because you've accepted them. All right. And so anybody who goes into those seats then goes away, basically. Those seats go away. Okay. They don't go away for you. Those seats go away. And then the remaining seats that you have go through the algorithm. And as we said, there will be an opportunity in between the priority placements and the algorithm being run where you can increase the number of seats should you choose to. All right. Will programs tab all be set up in our profiles by February 29th? Programs tab. Yes. So your programs, that particular part of your profile will be pre-populated based on what you signed up for in the setup form. So it will be pushed through to your profile. And then any places that you have access to that you can then provide information, you can go in and do that. I know that some of you have found that you do have access right now in your profile to certain parts of it. and some of you are saying you can't get in at all. So brand new providers should have complete access to your profile so that you can set that up. So if you're a year 2 provider, but not year 1, you should be able to get into almost every part except what's going to be pushed through based on your setup form. The rest of you, we were told, have edit access to at least your photos and, you know, your mission statement and the other things that you want to put in there. If you do not and you want that, send me an email. Well, I'll put it in here. And I'll see if I can figure out, because we were told that everybody should have access at this point. But I will almost guarantee you that as soon as your programs are published, you will have complete access to your profile. All right, is all of that as clear as mud? All right, so what do I need to walk through again? What other questions do you have? We have plenty of time, so don't hesitate. If you're not sure what I said, I'm happy to explain it again. And remember that that provider handbook is pretty comprehensive at this point.
Noreen, I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have a question about the publishing of rates. I want to ensure that I understood correctly. We won't be able to go in and put our rates in there until our profile is published. And that is supposed to happen sometime between now and February 29th.
Correct. And
Got it.
you don't have to have your rates in there by February 29th, but I would fully encourage you to get them in there as soon as you can. And remember, these are the rates that you're going to charge in August. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Uh-huh. What else? I keep losing connection and had a question about registration fees. Are they allowed for UPK families? Either one-time registration, the same we would charge for new families. Yes, they are allowed. And I would strongly encourage you, when you have access to your profile, to put in there that you also charge a registration fee and how much it is. So Beth, did you hear that? Maybe.
Noreen, I had a question. Can you repeat what you said again about the 3-year-olds and UPK?
Yeah, and I also suggested to you guys that you should have been on the school district call today, not this one, because you essentially are a school district in Harrison. So I think I would rather, if you wouldn't mind, talk to you offline, because it really does not pertain to the rest of these folks.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay. So you can stay on for a couple of minutes after we're done and I'll explain it all to you.
Okay.
Thanks. What else?
Noreen, it does look like there's also a question from Lysandra about whether families can use CCAP and UPK.
Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you. I didn't see that. Thanks, Ryan. Okay. Yes, they can. So, it may change in terms of the way it does. It happens for next year, but here's how it is this year, and we have not been notified that it has changed. So if a family is enrolled in a full day or extended day program and is attending more than 8 hours a day, okay. First of all, let me remind you that UPK is based on enrollment, not attendance, whereas CCAP is based on attendance, not enrollment. Well, attendance. Excuse me. So what happens is, so the UPK payment is made to the provider for any eligible family that any family that has a 4-year-old by October 1 of 2024. Okay. So whether it's 15 hours or 30 hours, whatever they're eligible for, that's what UPK pays. CCAP, as long as the family states that, that to their CCAP person, that they need full day care, okay? Then, the CCAP amount that family is eligible for is paid as long as they are there for 5 hours plus 1 second. And each day that they're there for 5 hours plus 1 second, the full day rate for CCAP is paid, okay? And the parent still has to pay their copay. So that's how the CCAP comes together, okay? So in that case, the only thing that the parent would be paying is their parent copay, okay? You as the provider would be getting UPK plus the parent copay, plus the amount of money that you would get from CCAP for that family. Now, there is a possibility that this coming year that they will change it to what's called stacking. And what that means is that UPK would be first in. So let's say you have a family that is eligible for 15 hours a week. The first 3 hours of each day would be UPK. So if the family is there for an additional 5 hours plus 1 second, it's still a full day rate, because that's what CCAP defines as full day, okay? So you're still going to get the UPK plus the full day rate plus the parent copay. However, if the family is there for above the 3 hours, if the family is there for less than 5 additional hours plus 1 second, then it's only a part-time rate. Okay? Because part-time is less than 5 hours, or 5 hours or less. Okay? So that would be a stack instead of a blend, if you will. All right. So this year it was all blended together because they didn't have any way of being able to certify who was getting UPK and CCAP. But, and we have not been told that will change for next year. But I am telling you that worst case scenario for you to plan for would be UPK is first in, and then any hours above that are eligible for CCAP would be based on the number of hours above the 3 hours a day that the family is actually there. Have I explained that in a way that actually makes some sense? Okay, if not, then I want you to contact me and set up an appointment, and I'll go through it again with you personally. You'll get your personal CCAP UPK consultant. Okay, Lysandra, that's great. All right. What else? Okay, so please read the provider handbook, okay? And don't hesitate to reach out if you have questions, okay? Pay attention to what's going on with your email in terms of CDEC reaching out and saying, please confirm your programs for the 24-25 year. And then look at that and confirm it, okay? If you have to make any changes, follow whatever it is whatever process they tell you to follow. If they tell you to reach out to your LCO, that's us, okay? And there you go. The slides, the recording, everything will be up on the JI page within the next, probably by Monday. The slides are already up there. The recordings will probably be up by Monday. How you guys all feeling? You okay? You excited? Come on, this is better than last year. I'm telling you, if you were not a new provider, if you were not a provider last year, priority enrollment was challenging. right? Well, this year, as long as parents do what they're supposed to do within that time frame, they're set, right? So you don't have to listen to that. So I think there's been a lot of positive things that have happened. So, and by the way, if you're a new provider, you don't have anything to compare it to, and you should be happy about that. All right, well, if you have no other questions or concerns, going to be able to, you are pre-registering families. That's what the priority enrollment is. Grace, stay on after this, okay? Let me talk to you. So you and Crystal stay on. Okay? Do the rest of you, I mean, if you don't have any other questions and you're good, I wish you a really good day and a very nice weekend. And if you have more specific questions that you didn't want to answer or ask, please stay on and I'll try to help you. Drew, do you want to pass this over to me so that you can go if you want to? If you don't, that's fine too.